two great guests from Rotary Resurgo. It is Nadine Duguay-Lemay, founding member of Rotary Resurgo, and Jesse Kerpan, the president of Rotary Resurgo. And there's an excellent event coming up next week covering a very serious topic. It is #TimesUp. And in order to really get the context of #TimesUp, we kind of have to go a year ago and #MeToo, because that was a very important event last year. And either one of you can take the reins on this, but why don't we cover in detail what was discussed and what happened at the event last year?
You want to take that one?
Sure. So last year was very much on the wave of the Me Too movement, and it was noticed that a lot of people were discussing behind the scenes a little bit about, hey, what's going on here? I may have had an experience, or who do I talk to? And we realized, well, there's no public forum to really bring this forward. And so that was a big impetus. There are several members in our club who are extremely passionate and quite knowledgeable in the area, Nadine included. And so that's one of the main reasons why that came up. It was timely. We felt it was a needed discussion.
And that first dialogue really centered on the victim's viewpoint. So the subject matter experts that we brought together at the forefront really kind of outlined the why. Why aren't we seeing a culture of denunciation as we're seeing in Quebec and Ontario, or even the Harvey Weinstein in the US? So that was kind of the focus, whereas the focus to this one with the Time's Up will be on equipping people, the audience, as to, okay, maybe I've been a bystander, maybe this has happened in my family, it's happened to me in my workplace, but here are some concrete tools, here are concrete resources, and that's why we brought those subject matter experts to talk more about the workplace environment, and or even as a club or any environment in which you could not feel harassment, that's not the right word, I'm sorry, I was thinking in French there. But experience,
sure.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Experience harassment in all its forms. Yeah.
So this is really kind of a, you don't want to say grassroots, but kind of an idea to bring the Me Too movement, the Time's Up, hashtags and the movements and the work being done there to a local flavor.
Yes.
Really to kind of boil it down to say, this is also happening here. Like we have to have a look out and say, look, this is not, it's not elsewhere, it's not from abroad, this is also happening here.
Right, it's not a not in my backyard situation, right? It's not just Hollywood, it's not just big business, it's it's right here in little old Moncton, in the greater Moncton area.
Yeah, and how we know that is not only are some of us have been victims, so obviously that's the starting point, but also as soon as we announced that we were doing the dialogue, there's been many victims who've come forward in the backgrounds and talked to some of us. And so we do have this knowledge of, yes, it exists and that's why, and so we're trying to dig into, okay, how do we equip people, basically. And the sad thing is, Mike, is that some people still feel my community has abandoned me. When I did try to come forward, these are the repercussions. Let's just look right now at the allegations that we see against, certain speaker of the chamber and or, even a CEO of the CCNB. And yes, there is this whole adage of no innocent until proven guilty, but we're still not having the proper conversations. Is it really fostering a safe space for victims to come forward? I do not think so if, there's a bunch of people who show support basically towards a person before the due process takes place. So we're still not having the right conversations in our observations.
And maybe that leads into the next question, and just strictly from an intelligence gathering standpoint, what is the correct discussion that should be happening here? Because it seems like a lot of people haven't figured it out.
Well, as I said, like the first one focused on the why and the victim. So we talked a lot about what were some of the impediments to have them come forward. I think this one will be more on the HR standpoint, and so some differences. A good question that keeps coming back is if there are known perpetrators, for instance, in the community, and they just keep bouncing around, just like the church did with the priests at one point. They're just shuffling around. So what are some of the recourses, legally and morally, that can happen as citizens? Because we know that there are open secrets, but yet it still perpetuates. So that's going to be one of the questions that we're going to ask two of our HR experts. Then from a policy standpoint, Senator Nancy Hartling is going to talk about Bill C-65 and what that bill will do, hopefully, to the workplace and changing, how we basically conduct ourselves in that space, and that will be a great opportunity for her to get feedback as well. And then Monique Galli, one of our other subject matter expert, she's the person who goes and fixes the problem. So she's the person that
the fixer.
She's
Everyone's
the fixer.
talking about a fixer right now.
Yeah, we're right there. Yeah,
right there.
She specializes in conflict resolution, and especially when there's been incidents of harassment in the workplace. So she will go and bring that reconciliation, which I know you're fond of that part, and just how do we fix this? And I think that will be good for people to hear, because organizations don't go public about that, right? They don't talk openly, oh, we brought in Monique Galli to talk about this or do this. So I think that's going to be very helpful for people. And then also she's going to talk about like her practice from the victim standpoint. Again, just why was it in her practice good things that's in certain instance that was the right decision for the person not to come forward, for instance. And she's gonna so again, I think it will relieve some pressure on maybe on some people who are in vulnerable or compromised situations. So that's a little bit the angles. Do you have anything to add?
I would add that what's interesting is that we see a lot of different workplaces. You know, there's a certain culture in Hollywood movies. There's a certain culture in corporate environments and such. And then there's in society as well, in the home, in public, how we treat each other and the situations that are created because of what our norm culture is something that's a huge factor in all of this. So if you create a culture where it's all about who you know and who endorses you to get that job, then of course those people who are in positions of power are going to be tempted to push the line a little bit. And then you end up years down the road and there's allegations to the degrees such as Harvey Weinstein and such. So I think what a big factor here is how to change the culture to the point that there's a new normal. What is a new normal in terms of workplace interactions or in terms of romantic advances or whatever. So I think that is a real fundamental piece behind a lot of the different topics that are being discussed here. And creating a new normal is difficult. We have a lot of blind spots.
Yes.
Right? Things we don't even really think to ask about, or we don't. It's always been done that way. This was always normal. I've seen everybody else do it, so why don't I?
Right.
These are a lot of things that to think about a culture, you kind of have to step outside of that culture.
Right.
And so this is where the public dialogue comes into play, and we can really pinpoint certain behaviors and dig into why those behaviors exist, and hopefully offer tools to figure out how to offer different behaviors.
Right.
Well, it's kind of a lot like forging a new path. I mean, it's so much easier to walk the old path because it's been made already.
I know
but,
it.
But everyone going to march a new path. I mean, there's no where do you go, what do you do,
Right.
and then once you take those steps, well, people need to follow after you because one person can't create a path, And it's a lot like that. It's endorsing and influencing enough people to create that new path and then see where it goes from there. And that's a lot of what the hashtag Time's Up event next Wednesday will be about at 6 p.m. Wingate Dieppe, as Nadine's already mentioned, the excellent panelists that are there. We can probably see it up here on screen again. Just take a look at our speakers and our moderator, who is friend of the show, by the way, Eric Jingles. He's been on this show quite a few times. And
he's done a fantastic job, too.
He is phenomenal at just about anything that he does, and that includes this thing where he does have to be a little bit more serious than he usually is. But huge credit to him because he does an excellent job moderating as well. And you can get your tickets now at Time's Up Moncton, emetna.eventbrite.ca, which if I haven't said right, you can search on Eventbrite and it will be up there as well if you can go on there and find that. But either way, it's going to be a very moving night for sure, and it's going to be very interesting to see what all the panelists and even the public have to say about it.
Absolutely. Actually, the interaction with the public, that's where we see often the most breakthrough conversations, because it's all those viewpoints, as Jesse's point said. So one thing I wanted to add very quickly is that we do have the option for people to buy community tickets, meaning there are some people who may not have the means to attend the event, and as an inclusive club, which we strive to always achieve in every way form that we conduct our activities, those community tickets will go to somebody that would like to attend but otherwise would not. So I encourage people, if you cannot attend but like to be supportive of the movement and supportive of the dialogue and Rotary, then purchasing a community ticket would be very much appreciated.
That's for sure.
Yes.
So we have about a minute and a half.
Okay.
So we can kind of decide where we want to go with that.
Okay.
So
I talked enough.
So I don't know. I thought it might be appropriate for you to talk about where the proceeds went from the last dialogue, perhaps.
Sure. Well, yes, the public dialogues, you know, when we do them, the goal is always to raise awareness on a topic, and that's why we bring the subject matter experts. The primary goal is that. The secondary goal is if we do have profits and proceeds, we do give them to charities. But we were very happy that the last time we were able to raise a good profit, and though that sum was equally broken down towards Crossroads for Women, as well as the, oh my goodness, le centre.
Le centre de crise.
Le centre de crise familiale Beau Séjour. I'm sorry, I can't think of it in English right now.
It's fine in French, don't worry.
Yes, and so equally we've directed so that it would help victims.
Yeah, that's
so
excellent news.
Yeah.
So be sure you know whatever you're doing when you get tickets for it. You can help out the community. You can also help out some excellent places here in our community that can help out in that area. So Nadine and Jesse, thank you guys so much for joining us. Very good luck next Wednesday, and certainly have a look, and you can get your tickets now on Eventbrite. So be sure to have a look at that and go support and check out what will be a very moving event for sure.